defense. Florida State's going to move the ball around. You have to trust your reads and hit your spots. Lastly, there's going to be a back row setter at all times in the Florida State 6-2. You want to attack that setter anytime you can.
If Florida State wants to get to 9-3 in league play, what must they do tonight?
Well, they're the bigger, stronger team. They want to establish that early and take the match to a place that Virginia Tech has a hard time following. Use that size to control the net, take away airspace for Virginia Tech's attackers, and finally, take advantage of having 3 hitters in the front row at all times in a 6-2. Spread the blockers and spread the floor.
Florida State has beaten Virginia Tech 5 years in a row. The Hokies looking for their first win since 2013. We'll find out what happens in 2019 right here on the ACC Network Extra, and an opening point for the Seminoles. It's Caffrey right on cue.
That's one of the things you see with Florida State is not only are they physical, but they're very skilled in serve receive, too. They're going to be in the system a lot here.
Powell. Out of system swing for the Seminoles. Jackson goes back for Powell. Dig from McKenzie. Powell, a third swing. And that one just a little long from Morgan Chacon. Point Virginia Tech.
And we saw it early already. Powell takes a swing down the line. Tessier has to dig it, forcing the libero to be able to set somebody. It takes him automatically out of system whenever the setter has to dig the ball.
Chacon on the outside, roll shot, and Mosley with her fist able to dig it. Tessier right side set, right side kill. It's in the back corner. Point Florida State.
Yeah, that's a good swing from Jasmine Martin right there. Nice high arm swing, hits deep corner. There's no defender there. You hit the ball, you're going to win.
Martin, the junior, a transfer from the University of Minnesota. Powell answers with a kill. The freshman from Pittsboro, North Carolina, some early swings.
It's going to be an interesting thing to follow here, Florida State's defense against left side attack. Knute's a great blocker. Martin's big too. So what we saw is Tessier played way up underneath the block there. So as Powell snuck it down the line, there was no defender.
Nearly an overpass. Tessier, middle set and a middle kill for Taryn Knute. Knute, a name we will be talking about often throughout today's match.
Yep, and we see here there's the double sub for the 6-2. Adrian L. comes in, along with Kaylee Morrison, to play right side.
Katie Smith, roll shot denied. She'll get another swing. It was deflected at the net. Point Virginia Tech. Now, Jake, one thing you mentioned in Jake's takes was for Virginia Tech, they needed to exploit the 6-2. For those watching that don't know a 6-2, what are the basics of that offense?
So 6-2 means you have 6 attackers and 2 setters. It's a 2-setter system. The setter who's in the back row always sets. It means you always have 3 hitters in the front row. The modern 6-2 features most of the time a double sub. Most setters don't hit these days, so whenever they rotate front row, they'll sub off for a right side hitter, and the previous right side will sub off for a new setter. It gives you 3 attackers in the front row, and it lets a team like Florida State, which is a big, big team for the ACC, and lets them exploit their size. But the weakness is your setters always have to play defense. When they dig the ball, you have nobody else to set it. So just by hitting it to right back, you know you're taking the other team out of system.
Tessier, right side set. Katie Smith, a kill. No, just beyond the antenna. Point Florida State. Tough angle there for Katie Smith, Jake.
Yeah, and I think what we're going to see from Florida State is they're blocking line really hard here. They're almost shutting off the antenna. That's letting their setter play no defense, just playing tip defense up underneath the block. When you're looking at 6-3, 6-4, 6-2 every time, it gets pretty tough. That's a good dump, good right hand.
Jackson. Jackson tries a right side set, plays it out of the net. Smith, blocked out of play. Point Hokies.
It's just excellent coverage there from Virginia Tech.
Hokies led by third-year head coach Jill Wilson, and Jake 2 weeks ago, maybe the biggest win of the Jill Wilson era, knocking off 23rd ranked Louisville.
Oh yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I think that, you know, she's been looking to pull as many levers and push as many buttons as she can with this group. And before they played Notre Dame that weekend, they played Notre Dame, then Louisville, they pulled the biggest lever of them all. They changed from a traditional system to a three-middle offense. That's a huge change. They put it in on a Thursday afternoon before they played a Friday night match. They played really well against Notre Dame, and then, frankly, just absolutely worked Louisville on the following match.
Serko, a part of that new offense going back to the middle. She has an early point for the Hokies.
Yeah, that's what you're going to see with the three-middle offense. They want to take advantage of Serko's ability to play middle and right, want to take advantage of getting the ball to Annabelle Zier as much as they can, and then Kai Young has been a really, really good player for them, filling into that third middle spot.
There's Peyton Caffrey, the senior, again, the reigning ACC Player of the Year, can do so many things on the floor for the Seminoles. They dig from McKenzie. Serko, consecutive points. Marissa Serko, who started her career actually a little bit on the left side, primary middle blocker, asked to fill the shoes of Jayla Tolbert on the right side, and then Jake, Coach Wilson, realizing they needed help in the middle, they go back to Serko.
Yeah, she's probably their Virginia Tech's best blocker, so moving her back into the middle puts her in a situation to block more balls. They're taking advantage of her versatility.
And Jackson just a little too long. That ties the opening set at 8. There's Florida State's head coach, Chris Poole, one of the best coaches in all of the NCAA. Jake, he's gotten it done at Arkansas and now, of course, at Florida State.
Yeah, that was a really big hire when they brought him in from Arkansas. Florida State volleyball had been pretty good, never great, and then he's really revived that program. Has a Final Four to his record at Florida State, the only ACC program to ever make a Final Four. He's been winning for a long time.
You look at those numbers, really impressive amongst active coaches as well as all-time coaches in terms of wins. 838 wins, and you see some of those names, Jake. Coach Russ Rose.
Mary Wise, Karen Chisholm at Texas State, just got her 900th win this season. When you're on a list with those coaches, you know you've really accomplished something in Division I volleyball.
And how about this? Since Coach Chris Poole was hired in 2008, if the Seminoles make it to the NCAA tournament this year, that'll be a decade straight of getting to the tournament.
Frankly, Florida State should be one of the best teams in the ACC, and they should be a top 25 or a tournament team every year. He has really done a great job recruiting well. They've done well with international players. They've done well with good transfers like Peyton Caffrey. You really have a good recruiting base there, but then ultimately he's built a great staff every year, and they train well and they coach well. Florida State has been just the class of the ACC for a long time now.
And we see Coach Jill Wilson talking with the officials. There might be a challenge here, and there will.
So the call was a touch off the block. Morgan Chacon came down. The ball landed out of bounds. She immediately started looking for a touch call. Got the touch call. So Coach Wilson is challenging that there was no touch. This is what we don't see this challenge very often. That's a touch. I'm going with touch. I've been wrong a lot this year, though, Evan.
I certainly had official right here who made the call.
It's just one of the hardest things to see on replay.
Let's take one more look.
Because it's this is a good look. This is a little nitpicky. You can almost see the sleeve on her jersey move a little bit right by her wrist, right by Sarah Powell's wrist. It's going to be very hard to overturn this.
When you are an official, what exactly are you looking for when you go to the replay monitor in terms of a touch call like this?
You've got to see it actually touch the player's hand or actually not touch the player's hand. That's very hard to see this.
Looks like the call is being explained to the scorer's table.
Wow.
And they reverse the call and say no touch.
Oh, this is a great look. Okay, I can see it there. I'm just wrong a lot this year.
Terrific work by our ACC Network Extra crew.
It's almost to the point where I think that perhaps, in fact, you only get 3 challenges. Unless it goes to a 5th set, then you get a 4th. But you don't get them back if you're right. I'm starting to become of the opinion that you should only use them for things that are very obvious. In the net, in and out, like things like that, because the touches are it just seems so random to me. Whoa. So no back row violation on the libero. The official said she was below the top of the tape. You don't often see a libero jump and swing in the front row, but we just got it right there. That's a nice swing from Sarah Powell. And
the Hokies leading 11-10 as Kylie Thomas will serve. Tessier, big right side set. Mosley will have the Hokies in the net. Great effort from the freshman Logan Mosley coming off the back row.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Mosley's able to make some better reads there. She kind of saw that tip a little bit late. That tip's way up in the air. Hopefully you'll be able to see her get 2 hands on it, not just throwing a fist at it. A more controllable dig.
High set Smith. She got all of that one, but no deflection, point Florida State. Jackson goes middle. Kai Young is stuffed. And the Seminoles come away with the point. Taryn Canute, the middle blocker, wins that battle.
Yeah, it's almost running her right into a double block right there. That's tough. Talon Jackson's got to see that, feel that, push the ball left or right side.
Overpass too easy for Canute. Florida State on a little run to go up by 3.
Yeah, it's a little...
Powell, point Hokies, cuts the deficit to 2.
And that's a good matchup for Virginia Tech. Chacon is probably the one spot out of 6 blockers she's solid, she's fine, she's just not very big. Everybody else is very big. They want to try and isolate on her, set a lot of right side, set a lot of slides, see if they can't exploit her size a little bit.
Swing for Zier.
And Virginia Tech goes right back to the well.
And the Noles forced to free it over.
Run it again.
Jackson goes for Smith and denied again by the Seminoles. Florida State and the blocking the story early as we step aside for our first time out. You're watching the ACC Network Extra live from Blacksburg. Welcome back to Castle Coliseum. Florida State leading Virginia Tech 15-12. Again, glad you could join us on the ACC Network Extra. Evan Hughes, Jake Lawrence, taking a look at the series history between the Seminoles and the Hokies. It's been fairly one-sided, Jake.
Yeah, and Virginia Tech entering the ACC kind of coincided with Florida State being very strong, so it's been a really tough kind of road to hoe here for Virginia Tech.
Hokies looking for their first win against Florida State since 2013. Zier muscles it through the middle blocker, Canute, point Tech.
Again, that slide, the right side attack. You know, Caffrey's a better blocker than Chacon. But, you know, the old joke goes that you don't pay your left side hitters to block. You pay them to pass and hit. So the idea of exploiting that, going at the right side, more right side set slide, I think that's a good path forward for Virginia Tech.
There's a set for L.
That's good tempo.
Jackson dumps, and L in the right place at the right time.
So that's a good result. You get an easy down ball back from Florida State.
Mosley, the freshman with a dig. Middle set. Swing for Caffrey. Jackson tries another dump. That hits home for the Hokies.
Yeah, pretty much everybody could have dug that ball. L passes it up. Yeah, you see it goes right past L. It goes right past Madison Sullivan.
Talon Jackson has tried the dump a couple of times tonight. She'll set for Katie Smith. Big dig from L. Hokies within 1. Right side set. Caffrey, initially denied. They'll set her again.
Canute with the set.
Smith, roll shot and a lift. The Hokies tie it at 15. And a timeout is taken by Florida State's coach, Chris Poole.
Small sample size. I'm sure she'll figure it out pretty soon.
Quickly going back to Virginia Tech, we mentioned earlier how they knocked off 23rd ranked Louisville 2 weeks ago. For this team, that was their first ACC win. What kind of confidence do you think that gave them moving forward?
It certainly is a boost. What you have to understand is that that's a huge upset. You've got to learn how to win the matches that you're supposed to win, the ones where you're even, where you're kind of at the same level, kind of very similar with with the Wake Forest and Duke weekend last weekend. Two teams are kind of right around in the same part of the standings. They split that weekend. It's great to beat Louisville, but you want to be able to beat Wake, Duke, and NC State and those schools because that's where the big meteor schedule is.
Seminoles responding with a block out of the timeout. Taylor Roberts, the libero, to serve. Jackson dumps. Smith looking for a touch. Won't get it. Point Florida State. Explanation, Hokies down by 2. Will try and side out.
The one thing you don't see on the replay is whether or not Kaylee Morrison looks really guilty afterwards. It's usually how you can tell.
Out of the review. Bump set from Roberts. Caffrey. Just too much. Peyton Caffrey.
I think that's the difference between a good Division I left side hitter and an elite one. A good one would have hit like a nice high cross-court shot, 80%. Caffrey just muscles up on that and just hits it hard to middle back. And it's something a lot of kids can't make.
Smith frees the back corner. Jackson for Smith, denied. It's a block for the Seminoles. Kaylee Morrison, the redshirt junior, forces a Hokies timeout.
They have to play better. They're going to have to produce more on the left side.
I mean, look at those numbers the last 8 games, putting up some numbers.
And she's been better. I mean, she's been good. She missed a big chunk at the beginning of the year, coming off a shoulder surgery. Took some time to find her legs, but she's been good the last 6 weeks or so.
Roberts, the sophomore libero, will serve. How do the Hokies respond out of the timeout? Zier is denied. The blocking of Florida State, the focal point of this team, starting to shine through late in set 1.
It's a low set. It's got to be a little bit higher for her. You see this never really clears the net. It's just right in the bottom of the tape.
Jackson forced to dump off the hands of Caffrey, and the Hokies stop the Seminole run.
It's good that Jackson has 2 primary dumps. She has her left hand to the middle of the floor, then she has that right hand kind of behind her head over her shoulder. That's a more challenging dump. For some of us, our shoulders don't move that way anymore. And you see Virginia Tech, they miss an opportunity to capitalize. Missed serves are going to happen. You're going to miss some serves when you serve aggressively. We talked about that at the beginning of the match. But when you're fighting, clawing at the end of the set, you got to go back there and know not just serve in, but serve well. Serve tough, serve in. Take Florida State out of system. Don't let them off the hook.
Tessier will serve. Jackson again forced to dump. Caffrey with the kill. Peyton Caffrey, who leads this Seminole team with 266 kills.
Yeah, so it's kind of a soft dump from Talon Jackson. And essentially, it's just a free ball. You get all 3 options available for the Seminoles. Easy kill for Caffrey.
There's Zier seeing the opening at the 10-foot line. Run to tie the set at 15. What have they done since?
They've received really well. They've hit well. I think that Virginia Tech is – you can't hit 0.48 and hope to win because Florida State hitting below their average. You average 254. They're at 214 right now. That's too much of a difference. That's too much of a gap.
Hokies within 4. Need to go on a run. Tessier right by the net. And kind of an awkward set on the right side, looking for Clothier. Mosley will serve. 22-19. Bump set. Caffrey cross court, it's in, right in front of the Tech bench.
Off a bump set, inside set. Talon Jackson's got to see that move the block in. That's a big time swing from Caffrey though. She stays inside, stays tucked in, and just smokes it cross court.
And now we see a timeout used by Virginia Tech and Coach.
You know, you can build an entire team around a player like that. They're very rare. Those 6 rotation left side hitters are rare.
Well, maybe a reason that Virginia Tech calling a lot of timeouts, a lot of challenges here in this opening set is because how good Florida State has been. 12-1 on the year when they win the opening set.
You want to start fast. Start fast. So volleyball's different because you got to beat a team 3 times in order to win.
Well, Caffrey will serve out of the timeout. Jackson for Circo.
Run it again.
Powell finds the opening in the back of the court. Sierra Powell had some early swings, was quiet in the middle part of set 1, and here she is late coming up big.
You can see them blocking line, and Tessier coming up to play tips. That leaves that deep corner open.
Bump set from Tessier. Powell is blocked. Set point, Florida State.
And that's the flip side. They're almost running what's called a cross-court defense. We ran this when I was coaching back at College of Charleston about 10, 12 years ago. Block line, have your right back play tips, and just challenge someone to say, hey, hit line through our huge block.
And Florida State takes the opening set 25-20 against Virginia Tech. We're going to step aside for a break on the ACC Network Extra, but when we come back, we have a power. Kai Young wears the number 22 at Virginia Tech, and during the video, the family talks about what a special moment it was when she got to wear the 22 because that is the number that her younger brother Colby wore. They used to call him Deuce Deuce, and I thought that was a really unique part of the video, and I'm sure what an honor it is for her to wear the 22 for her brother. Well, back to the action in Castle Coliseum. Again, we're glad you're with us on the ACC Network Extra. Jake Lawrence, Evan Hughes. Hokies win the opening point after falling 25-20 in set 1.
Again, they're trying to exploit that deep corner shot against Florida State. I mean, Florida State knows their defense. They know how they're set up. They know where they're vulnerable.
Jake, if you're Coach Young after set 1, give me one thing you were focusing on with your team.
Coach Wilson is probably looking for just better offense. I mean, they've only generated 13 kills in the first set. That's just not quite enough to get it done. The hitting errors, unforced hitting errors weren't bad. 6 unforced hitting errors, but they were blocked 5 times. It's going to happen. Florida State's a great blocking team.
Smith muscles it through the blocks.
Katie Smith, she's a crafty outside hitter. She's going to find kills down the line. She's going to find kills off the block. You're not going to be able to sustain kills off the block the entire match. You've got to find some clean kills to the floor.
McKenzie will serve. Tessier, right side. Off the block. Point Seminoles. That time it's Jasmine Martin. Mentioned how she's a transfer from the University of Minnesota. Talk about a volleyball school and a volleyball conference. The Minnesota Golden Gophers are legit.
Yeah, they're having a fantastic year. They're missing Kylie Miller. They're starting setter right now. So they've been kind of struggling. They're still winning, but they're struggling to win matches right now in the Big Ten. That's an excellent program up there. Built by the legendary Dr. Mike Hebert, who just passed away last week. After a long career with Illinois and Minnesota.
Smith in the middle. And that catches Florida State off guard. Point Virginia Tech.
Again, Katie Smith is crafty. She's got good hand-on ball contact, good control, sees the floor well. I think that the one thing with Florida State is their setters are good. They set well, and that's what you want your setters to do. They're not great defenders, so keep hitting the ball at them, make them play defense. Good serve.
Bump set. Jackson, middle. And a great dig in the back row of Florida State. Circo muscles it through the blockers. Point Virginia Tech.
Yeah, and they bring Serco inside for kind of a 32, hope to split the block. That's a big block, too. So you're asking her to challenge two big blockers in that spot.
Smith off the tape, no problem for Roberts. Roll shot, well executed by Morgan Chacon, the redshirt freshman.
Yeah, and you're going to see from so many players in this spot, they're going to show it early, but she takes a full jump and the last moment pulls up short, hits that little roll shot. That's how it's supposed to look.
She'll now serve. Serco tips. Florida State will free it. Serco mistimed her jump on a high set from Jackson.
And this is that tough rotation for Virginia Tech. It's really their rotation 5 here with Serco and Zier. They don't really have a true left side hitter in this spot. They've struggled in this area before.
L will set, back row, and a kill. Morgan Chacon coming alive in set 2.
That's where you get in a little bit of trouble is you're not sending hard swings across the court, so you're getting hard swings in return. Now they're bringing in Jennifer Williams here on the left side for Serco to try and side out here. She's the one left side hitter who's available tonight who hasn't played yet due to Tessa Weiner's injury. Tough spot to come in.
And an ace. Katie Smith, back row for Tech. 6-4 Seminoles. Again, this is a Florida State team that's near the top of the ACC trying to keep up with Pittsburgh. And both teams trade service errors.
And Florida State lets Virginia Tech off the hook there big time. That is Virginia Tech's worst side out rotation. If it was me and my team was as strong of a blocking team as Florida State, you want to serve tough because that's just what you always want to do. But I'd be willing to take something off, put the ball in play, and say, hey, hit through this giant block. See how that goes.
Seminoles bring in Taylor Roberts, second most digs on the team, and last year was one of the only true freshmen that consistently played for Coach Chris Poole.
And she does a good job. They've played the first set at times with no libero.
Sierra Powell there with a kill back row.
Yeah, they bring her inside. They bring her inside from the left pin. Something a little more up-tempo, try and beat blockers off the floor. She finds a really good spot. Block does a good job there and closes, so Block did its job.
Set from L.
Good touch. Kai Young there.
Powell got all of it, just wide. Point Florida State.
And this is where, Sarah Powell is trying to grow as a left side. Her timing was good. Everything looked great right until the final product. As she gets that arm swing a little faster, gets up on top of the ball, that's going to be not just a kill, but it's going to be a big kill.
Kai Young in the middle. Point to Florida State. 9-6. Seminoles lead. And to go back to that graphic we hit on in set 1, Florida State 12-1 on the year when they win the opening set. Serco right side. There's a swing from Martin. And Powell has to free it over. Tessier, middle. A block for Tech. And the back row comes up big for Florida State. Morgan Chacon.
And so watch the defenders here for Virginia Tech. Everybody's still kind of moving at contact. They don't get stopped till after Chacon's already hit the ball. You gotta be digging early. Stopped early by the time she leaves the floor. Otherwise, you're not ready to react to go make a play.
And a miss hit from Sierra Powell. 10-6 Florida State. And a timeout is taken by Virginia Tech's Jill Wilson.
Yeah, and she's a good hitter too. Like that's the other thing. Like you get some people who can only do one thing, and if you're going to have someone do one thing in the middle for you, it's great to have it be blocking, and that's your first job in the middle. But, you know, she hits 379. She's getting 2 kills a set. That's everything you want out of a middle.
Well, you mentioned how she can get it done on offense. How about this? Over her last 7 matches, Canute hitting over 400, 67 kills, and then has hit over 504 of her last 7 matches.
I think that she's a borderline All-American. I mean, it'll really depend on how well Florida State does the rest of the year and whether she makes All-Region, but she should be an All-American this year. And Kai Young just airmailed a ball off the sideline boards. That's okay.
And the Seminoles leading 13-7. That serve is long.
It happens to the best of us.
From Peyton Caffrey. There's Sierra Powell, freshman from Pittsboro, North Carolina. And what an effort from Florida State. Young in the middle, a kill. Kai Young on a special night for her with the kill.
So if we were in a smaller gym, she would have hit the last one off the back wall. That time she crushes it. Really, it's good to see because Kai Young, she hasn't played a ton the last couple years, and she hadn't played a lot at the beginning of this season. She got inserted into the lineup during the change to a 3-middle system, and she's been great, just flat out. Not okay, not good, not acceptable. She has been great.
And Katie Smith comes up big for Tech, cuts the deficit to 3, but look at the up from Talon Jackson.
Yeah, and a back bump set cross court from Annabelle Zier as well.
Tessier, right side. Another dig from Jackson.
Nice set from Kylie Thomas.
Smith, roll shot. Florida State was ready for it. Chacon was there. Williams, blocked. Kai Young and Katie Smith. A Hokies on a 4-0 run. And a timeout taken by Chris Poole and Florida State. The Hokies not going away easy in set 2.
No, they're competing really hard. It starts with defense. I mean, you get a great block touch, you get a good dig cross court from Talon Jackson. Katie Smith hits a little kind of loopy roll right over the block, and I think by Oregon at home. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good year. I have no idea who's going to win.
Florida State trying to make it 10 years in a row in the tournament.
At this point, I think they're a lock. One, they're going to get lots of good tempo. Oh.
And Florida State called for in the nets.
Under.
Oh,
setter stepped under.
And now you see Coach Chris Poole wanting an explanation. Does not like the call.
See if we can see Tessier here. Oh, yeah, it's got to go all the way across. And it does right there. Good work from Terry Martin, our second official.
And an ace for Virginia Tech, a 6-0 run to tie set 2 at 13.
I can understand why Jeff Holzmeyer got up and Chris Poole was upset about that call against Tessier, because I will say a lot of officials miss that under the net call. Terry Martin's not going to miss that call, so it actually gets called.
Smith is denied. Florida State with a block to snap the run for the Hokies.
And this is okay. I mean, you're good. It's a good block from Jasmine Martin. Man, she gets up. It's okay. You're going to get blocked. That's fine. It happens to the best hitters in the world. You've got to be able to compose yourself, and move on from it.
Well, this is shaping up very similarly to how it was in set 1, Jake. Tied at 15. Florida State went on a run. Tied at 14.
I think that Virginia Tech's defense has been better. They're hitting 087 in the set, but they've dragged Florida State down to like 143. If Virginia Tech can find a few more kills, they could really turn this one around.
McKenzie, a service error. And Florida State will check back in. Kaylee Morrison.
I think that's the only thing you can do in that spot when you actually serve it into the antenna, is you have to laugh it off.
Jackson, right side. Zier is denied. Consecutive blocks for Florida State. And Virginia Tech likes to try and find Zier on that run.
The one thing I like to see Talon Jackson do as she grows into this starting setter role is she's moving backwards. She ends up tending to set in the direction she's moving, so she back sets. That's very easy for a blocker to read, leading to your hitter being double blocked. I'd like to see her reverse flow as she's moving backwards. Try and set left side. Try and force that middle blocker to have to travel a further distance. It's a more challenging set, but it'll get your hitters in better spots.
Adrian L to serve, one of 2 setters used by this Florida State team. Zier just floats it over the net out of play. A 4-0 run for Florida State since Chris Poole called that timeout.
I think running Zier behind here is a good choice. You got to find the right set, and you got to locate it.
Smith. Ten-foot line wide open for Florida State, and play at the net for the exclamation point. Timeout, Virginia Tech, and Florida State on a 5-L to serve. Dished out 23 assists in the Noles win against Miami. And comes up nearly with an ace. Tech able to play it out of the net. And that swing, little long from Kaylee Morrison. So Serko checks in, Smith to serve. Hokies down by 4. Into the net, Katie Smith. And Florida State's within 5. Smith from Florence, Kentucky, someone who has been a focal point of this Tech team her first couple of years in Blacksburg, but off-season shoulder surgery, late start. There's a beautiful dump for Annabelle Zier, if you will.
That set was almost behind her head. She'd reach way back and get it. I'd say probably 10 years ago that gets called for a lift, but not anymore. That's okay. It's a good athletic play.
Here's Mosley. Point Florida State 21-16, but going back to Katie Smith, someone who we've talked about the talent that she has, Jake, and the role she's played the last couple of years, but I think the point you said earlier, it's important. She's going to have to really step up with Tessa Weiner sideline right now.
Yeah, so your other option right now, your other outside hitter is a freshman in Sarah Powell who's doing well, but she's still learning. Katie Smith brings that front row and back row 6 rotation player. She's an excellent server. When she's good, the Hokies are good, flat out, no question. So it's kind of on her. It's on the coaching staff. It's how do you be good every night? Like, that's the hard part. That's the challenge that everybody has in sports, is how do you be good every day? Wow, that's a remarkable non-call.
Powell, consecutive kills.
Love it, love it. Love the tempo to Sarah Powell there. If you're Talon Jackson, it's your first year playing a ton. It's also Sarah Powell's first year playing a ton. You've got to put Powell in a good spot to be successful. Her last 2 sets have been great. Ooh.
And a beautiful set for Florida State.
So that's such a really, really good run there from Adrian L. You can see her almost downbeat that set. She sets it on the way down. She makes everybody think that ball's going middle to Clothier, but it just pops it outside to Caffrey. That's such a good run. That's a veteran move.
Smith back row. Swing for Caffrey. That's in. Back corner on the end line. Point Florida State.
Yeah, and the defensive timing's off all over the place here for Virginia Tech. Kai Young's early on the block. I think Katie Smith was a little bit late getting set to play defense, so she kind of got flat-footed. Couldn't make the move. It's a timing game, Evan. It's so important to get your timing correct, offensively and defensively.
Mosley, bump set, circle. Tessier, right side, Williams, a kill. Jasmine Martin, with the kill, 24-18.
And just excellent work from Martin here. You can't see her on this replay, but she sets her feet. She gets her timing correct. And it's kind of an awkward swing, but she makes it look really easy.
Serko plays it out of the block. Tessier, middle. Powell, that's long. Florida State 25-18. They win set 2 and are in command. Goingers.
We have number 11, Marissa Stockman, coming in the match in the middle here. And
on the move, L. The bump set actually over the net and out of play.
And they've also changed, Florida State's also changed liberos here. Lauren Burrows is in the gold jersey. I've seen teams change liberos before during a match. I'm not sure I've seen the libero wear 2 different jerseys, though.
Big dig for Kylie Thomas.
It's a good-looking jersey.
Here's Burrows, bump set. Jackson played it. On the move, sets for Smith. And a dig from Burrows. Hokies somehow get it over, but Florida State puts it away. Taryn Canute. Talked about her blocking ability, 114 on the season, but offensively hitting over 400 in her last 7 matches.
Yeah, just 375 tonight. They've only set her 8 times. Haven't really had to use her.
Canute also led the ACC in blocks last season, on her way to doing so again in 2019. And I mean, there you see those numbers. What an asset for this Florida State team.
Yeah, and she obviously has size, but she moves well. She has great vision, excellent footwork, and she's disciplined. It's hard to be a good blocker. I think it's the hardest skill in the entire sport. And it's great to see people who do it so well.
Smith.
And she does it on the right, where she's setting blocks, where she's deciding where the block is. She does it in the middle, where she has to close. It's really fun. I wonder how well she plays left side. Not that they need it. They've got 2 really good ones already.
Point to Florida State. Kylie Thomas, again, got there for attack, but so much power on that swing from Stockman off the bench.
It's a good touch. I mean, middle one-on-one should get a kill, so you want your defenders to just try and pop it up, keep it off the floor. Did a good job there.
That serve is long. So the Hokies lead by 2. One thing to keep an eye on as we officially enter conference play, as well as just the volleyball season in November, Jake, things like the RPI and other factors begin to become more of a conversation. So you look at Florida State, at this point continuing on, a swing for Serco. There's a kill for Peyton Caffrey. But going back, you look at the RPI through October 27th, Florida State at 35. If you're Coach Poole, how do you feel about that at this point in the season?
If you can stay at 35, you're good. The cutoff is low to mid-40s. If you're at 40, 41, you feel good. If you're at 45, you're sweating bullets. If you're at 50, don't bother having a watch party. But 35 is pretty solid if they keep winning. They have some really quality wins. If they keep winning, they'll be okay. They're in.
Katie Smith, a kill in the back corner. One thing also about Florida State, they're ranked 13th in non-conference strength of schedule in the entire country. Played a couple of big-time opponents to begin the year. Number 5, Wisconsin, beat number 3, Minnesota in straight sets.
Yeah, lost against Florida, which is a traditional match played every year between the Gators and the Seminoles.
Peyton Caffrey. What a swing for the senior.
That's just a mismatch against the opposing setter, Talon Jackson. She's got a lot of line there to hit. She's got a good compact arm swing. She's really starting to feel it here in this third.
Big dig from Burrows.
Virginia Tech runs something quick and convert here.
Powell. Blocked on the line. Point Florida State. Seminoles tie the third set at 5. Let's take another look.
Yeah, Martin keeps it pretty simple. Small adjustment has managed to get her hands back to the middle of the court, keeps that ball in bounds.
Circo. Dig from McKenzie, play at the net. And Florida State wins the point. Jasmine Martin the honors. Florida State in this match, as well as the ACC this year, so good in blocks per set, but also total team blocks, hit percentage.
It's what you would expect out of one of the top teams in the league. I mean, they hit well, they block well, because they're not a great defensive team, but they, in terms of floor defense, but their block is so strong, it creates so many more points. When I coach, I always took pride on opponent hitting percentage. How good a defenders are we? How well do we shut the other team down? Because you're not always going to hit well or pass well on every night, but you can always defend well.
What an up from Florida State.
Yeah.
And that's a lift on Jasmine Martin.
Yep, she tomahawked that one a little bit. Looked like she grabbed it, cocked it behind her head.
Well, let's take another look at how Florida State kept this point alive. An excellent dig from the back row, and that's Caffrey.
Yep. That's all you're looking for. If that ball's hit hard there and not touched by the block, it's a kill. But the block gets a touch, slows it down, lets the defender make a play. I would have thought she was going to roll shot that, not take a full swing.
Ooh. Caffrey again from the back row.
She just creates so much pressure on the defense.
Kai Young with the up. 2 blocks for the Seminoles. Maybe one more. No.
Tips.
There's a tip right through the blockers. Point Florida State. Morgan Chacon.
So Peyton Caffrey, the first back row swing she took looked like a roll shot coming, but she takes a full swing. Second one looks like a roll shot, takes an 80% swing. She creates so much pressure on defenders to keep defending.
Well, standing out right now for Florida State, of course, Caffrey the entire match, but also Morgan Chacon having a couple of valuable swings as Cloutier serves. That's long. But Caffrey and Chacon both have great chemistry, and that's because both of them are actually doubles partners on the Florida State beach volleyball team. Caffrey, in her first season playing beach volleyball last year, 31-6, the most wins on Florida State's team. So, Jake, how can that help in terms of indoor volleyball?
Well, you got to learn to play the whole game. It's more volleyball. It's more intense of a season than necessarily your spring season will be, your off season for volleyball. It also, if you're a program like Florida State who has some crossover athletes, some kids only do beach, some kids only do indoor, some do both. You're able to practice more throughout the entire spring semester if you do both things. I can see how Caffrey and Chacon are a pretty darn good pair. Caffrey would be the big blocking, playing up the net. Chacon running the back of the court. 2 very skilled athletes, good passers. I'm sure they're tough.
I'll tell you what, too, watching the NCAA championships for beach volleyball, very fun as well.
It's gotten a lot better. I remember when they first started, before the NCAA sponsored it, it wasn't great. It wasn't good even. I think a lot of younger players are growing up with the beach game, learning it when they're 10, 11, 12 years old, and that's created – also, the colleges are taking it way more seriously, but that's created a much higher level of play. UCLA is good, Hawaii's good, Florida State's
USC.
Good, Long Beach State, USC. USC had the #1 pair in the country last year. Like, there's a lot of good players out there. And you know what? It's a sport that in this country, USA's always dominated beach volleyball, especially on the women's side.
And might see a potential challenge here from Coach Jill Wilson. And looked like the Hokies may have had a pancake. Play continued for a half second. And Coach Wilson with her last challenge of the match. We'll take a look.
This will be the look. That's up. Did that hit Annabelle Zier in the face after it got dug? So what's interesting here is if this is overturned, I think that's up. It catches Zier.
Almost right by her nose.
Yeah, then Kai Young plays it. They blow the whistle for the ball being down. If it's overturned, it actually bails Virginia Tech out because Kai Young's touch was the third touch. So they would have lost that point on a four.
Shot. A block for Virginia Tech. Chacon denied at the net. Kai Young.
We've got a high ceiling. We could do like the spider cam in Castle Coliseum.
Hokies down 2. L, middle. Zier. There's another swing for Chacon. That time, it hits home. Point Seminoles. And there's Chacon, who, you know, Jake, we talked about her beach volleyball season she had with Caffrey, but in 2018 as a freshman, played in just 3 matches before redshirting. So this is her first true test this season playing college volleyball.
So she does what we call she's an L2. So you have your L1 or your O1, and they're as Peyton Caffrey. So your big bomber, your big point scorer. That's the player that has to play 2 rotations with a front row setter, so they have to carry the offense. Your L2 can be a smaller player, better passer, doesn't have to get all the kills. They provide more ball control. And Chacon is a perfect example of that.
Strong serve from McKenzie. That swing, looking for a touch. Florida State wants one, won't get it. Here's Chris Poole up out of his chair. He might challenge. And he looks at his team, saw their reaction, and he will challenge. Comes a great look. Swing from Canute.
That's a touch. And so we saw in that play kind of what we were talking about with setting with flow or against flow. The setter in that spot is backing up, moving towards the offensive right side of the court. And she sets Canute because, frankly, yeah, Canute's a very good hitter, but it's also the easiest thing to do is just set as you're moving that direction. The harder play.
Let's take another look here as we slow it down.
Yep. Touch. Left hand. So the harder play there is to push that ball left side across the court. If she had done that, Zier's kind of already, or I'm sorry, Serko's already committed to blocking middle there, so you would get one-on-one on the left side. This one's certainly taken a while.
It looks like the review is complete. Seen a lot of challenges today.
You've got them. Might as well use them.
I was about to say, the quote from Jake Lawrence in the first set, you don't get to take them home with you.
You do not.
Here is the call on the floor.
And there's no penalty for being wrong.
And a touch is called, point to Florida State. But Virginia Tech down by more than 4 points in the set. They found a way to come back. Now the question is, can they close the gap down 2?
They're battling here. They're hitting their best percentage so far, 158, while Florida State's hitting 320 this set. Both teams are playing better offensively. It's not uncommon to see teams settle into the match.
Zier is blocked. Combination of Clothier and Caffrey. Emma Clothier, somebody we have not talked about a lot today. She's the second most blocks on the team with 77. From the state of Texas, Jackson tried to dump. She is blocked. It's Clothier making her presence felt. Florida State leading Virginia Tech 15-10 in set 3. Welcome back to Castle Coliseum. Seminoles in command, leading 2-9. And for Florida State, it's been a block party today.
Yeah, they average 3 blocks per set, which is excellent. And today they're good. They're big. They're in the right place at the right time. Virginia Tech has struggled offensively. They've struggled to pass. Been very predictable, allowing Florida State to set up double blocks.
Jackson, Smith tips. Caffrey, cross court.
Wow.
What a play. Peyton Caffrey, the vision, tough angle. She makes it look easy.
Okay, that is an absolutely elite swing. 11 feet off the net, comes hard inside the middle block. No defender there. There's no one who can stand there. You don't want to stand there. Nobody can hit the ball there.
Virginia Tech brings in Angel Robinson, her first action of the night. So, Jake, when you look at this Florida State team, and we've mentioned how if they make the NCAA tournament this year, which looks good, that'll be 10 years in a row. How far can this team go, do you think, with this team being so good at middle blocking, as well as Pittsburgh being in the ACC, keeping that in mind?
I think that they are a tournament team. I think depending on who they get matched up with in the first and second round, a potential Sweet 16 group. Obviously, they've won at the high end of their schedule. They beat Minnesota, played Wisconsin pretty tough. But are they beyond a Sweet 16? I think a Sweet 16 would be a great year for this group. They're big enough to match up with a better SEC team, a Big 10 squad, a Big 12 squad. They're big enough to stay in the match. The question is, can they pass well enough and generate enough offense from people other than Peyton Caffrey?
Cross-court kill from Jasmine Martin, someone they'll need in the postseason. The timeout is taken by Coach Joe Wilson and Virginia Tech. 18-11 the score. The Huddle with Jack Collinsworth, Eric McLean, and EJ Manuel get you ready for ACC football like nobody else. They'll preview the weekend slate of games and keep you updated on all things ACC football. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern on ACC Network and the ESPN app. ACC football, kind of like ACC volleyball right now, Jake. There's a lot of parity amongst teams 2 all the way down right now. Of course, in football, Clemson, and then everybody else. And then right now, it seems like Pittsburgh and everybody else in the ACC.
Yeah, they're clearly the top of the league. They're in a class by themselves. Louisville, Florida State, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and North Carolina are starting to come on really strong. Syracuse is going to finish well. They always do. But after that, it's a bunch of teams that you're not really sure what they're going to be one night to the next. That's why you're seeing Pitt, Louisville, Florida State kind of feast on the bottom half of the league in a way that most years they don't. Usually there's a pretty good distribution of wins across the conference. This year it's very top-heavy.
Hokies trying to get something going out of the timeout.
Looks like Jasmine Martin tripped or slipped or something there. Slipped.
And meanwhile, for the Hokies, they'll have another test on Sunday as Miami comes to town, a team that Florida State just knocked off. There's a right side set, a swing, and a kill. As Jasmine Martin certainly, again, being that compliment to Peyton Caffrey here this evening.
Up over 220 now. Swinging well.
Big moment for her this year, Jasmine Martin. We mentioned how she was a transfer from the University of Minnesota, but Florida State had one of its best wins in program history in August. They took on the third-ranked Gophers. And against her former team, it was Martin who led Florida State with 16 kills.
It's a big win. I mean, knocking off a top 5 squad. I mean, Florida State's been to a Final Four, but it's been almost 10 years ago, 8 years ago now. It's a really season-defining win To pick that up at the beginning of the year is really nice.
Big time block from Florida State coming off the bench. Take another look. See the block from
Nunji.
Nunji, again, her first couple of minutes.
Yeah, what you want to do with that slide is you're trying to get trying to stress that left side blocker, make her move. She doesn't really have to move there. Easy block for Nunji.
Tomorrow we'll have another college football triple header for you on the ACC Network and the ESPN app. Syracuse hosts Boston College at the Carrier Dome at noon Eastern. Then number 4 Clemson takes on Wofford in Death Valley. And at 7:30, it's Virginia and North Carolina in the ACC Network primetime matchup presented by Geico.
That Virginia-North Carolina game is going to be pretty interesting. That Coastal Division is an absolute tire fire right now.
You know, there's a chance that every team could finish 4-4, and then it's tiebreakers.
It seems appropriate. It really does.
That should be a good one. Again, that's the primetime matchup, Virginia-North Carolina. Out of the timeout, Caffrey will serve. Seminoles within 5 points of the sweep. Well, Virginia Tech is going to fall in this one, Jake. Give me a couple of things you're hoping to see Virginia Tech improve upon before Miami on Sunday.
Well, I think that this has been, from what we've seen the last month or so, one of their poor serve-receive matches. That has to be disappointing for the staff because this isn't their best offensive performance. They really haven't given themselves a chance to score, to run a big efficient offense, so that's got to be better against Miami. Miami's physical. They're not as physical as Florida State. They're probably not as strong as Florida State. But if Virginia Tech can put together a better offensive performance, I think you'll see a better overall performance from the Hokies. I mean, 0-26 is 0-35 now. That's pretty tough.
Circo, right? Tessier. And a kill. As Florida State's Jessica Nunji. Coach Chris Pool's been able to get in a couple of players like Morrison and Nunji, Stockman, as well as Burrows off the bench. And we'll see one more as Alyssa Collins, redshirt freshman libero, comes in.
I think for Virginia Tech, they've played hard throughout this match. I mean, they're losing to a strong team, one of the best teams in the league. There's no shame in that. They've played hard. They haven't executed well. There's a difference there. It's one thing to see, even at 22-13, they've played hard. There's some confusion about who the floor captain's going to be. It's going to be Lily Tessier. That's what happens when you start making substitutions. You sub off your floor captain and you don't realize it.
Tessier with 15 assists today. Circo. And Powell with the left hand.
Yeah, it's a trap set from Talon Jackson. Pretty much the only option Powell has. It's better than leaning way out to play it with your right. It kind of puts you at risk for some injuries, so it's good to have that left hand.
Float serve. Tessier. Big dig from Mosley. There's a block for Virginia Tech. Kai Young and Katie Smith.
It's a good move for both of them. Nice swing block there. Gets over nice and early.
Tessier, bump set. Jackson. Smith. Point to Florida State. Well, today as well, kind of tying in what has been a really powerful day in Castle Coliseum on the Verse Cancer Day. Virginia Tech Volleyball, you see them wearing the yellow, raising $3,500 for the organization, Verse Cancer. Special day for Kai Young, and a lot of good done today outside of volleyball, Jake.
No doubt. It's nice to be able to see athletics and college athletics supporting a good cause.
A double called on Adrian L. Hokies hanging around. Yeah, this is Virginia Tech team that was tied at 15 in the opening set before Florida State pulled away. Then they were tied at 14 in set 2.
Yeah, the band getting admonished from our officials here for continuing to play.
Well executed. Marissa Stockman, the dump at the 10-foot line. It's match point for Florida State, trying to get to 9-3 in league play, stay in the top 4 of the league standings in the ACC. Jackson, Smith. Hokies now down 24-17. I think, Jake, you made an excellent point. Virginia Tech playing, just a very physical, tough Florida State team, but the fight has been there from the start.
Yeah, and sometimes you're just not going to play well enough to win, and that's what we've seen from Virginia Tech at times. They've been very competitive today, though.
Senior McKenzie serves. Right side. And a kill for Florida State. That'll put it in the books. Florida State 3-0 the final over Virginia Tech, their 15th win of the season, and improved to 9-3 in conference play. Jake, your final remarks.
Yeah, really a comprehensive performance from Florida State. Very professional. They passed well, they blocked well, they hit well, they improved to 245 by the end of the match.